who's that person, what side they on, who they working with, who don't like who. But the truth of the matter is the only people that's at stake is not you and I, but it's our children. So the question that we really have to ask is, do you really care? Did you only care when the governor put a threat to us? The matter is, they're laughing at the plan. We just speaking. And he says that he's hoping that we will ask for help. Well, I'm saying even before we ask Lassie for help, we got people right now, because the truth of the matter is we need a principal right now before a superintendent. Because kids are getting ready to come into this building in about 3 years, and they have no leader to stand at the door and welcome them into their school. So my question is to the board, do you really care? We keep coming, taking this chair and giving our concerns, but here it is. We got a man that, again, for the third time, as I quote, lost his job, and everybody around the table know it was wrong. But haven't said anything to that, and you know we got a winner in Ronaldo Tripp.
Children.
Good evening to the board. A lot of things were said, a lot of them very much on point. Truly without a doubt or contradiction, this proposal is unacceptable because we've been through plans of failure. And this is truly one that is set up for failure. One of the greatest things that teachers spoke about was constant change. For the last 7 years, every year it's moving, buildings changing out, teachers ain't never situated to where they can come back the next year, go prepare their classroom. Like now they should be in there preparing their classroom, having them set up, doing the things that are necessary. So when the students walk in the door, they can be in an environment that's conducive to learning. That's one of the greatest things that this district. They began to outsource in '97 to the 21st century. When they talked about hiring people, you have individuals, and it's nothing personal. Ms. Gill don't stay here, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Boone, and I was told that they had to hurry up and hire somebody. The only thing that they can do is follow orders, and I don't know who's giving the orders. The individuals that after they went over this is non-starter because it's truly active failure. And I say that because when it comes to doing what's necessary, sometimes you can have people from the inside that's destroying. And when you have individuals on the inside that are following the same plan that's been issued for years, this agreement is the same agreement, it's identical, it's just various things that's been changed around. And we have to understand when you get a lot of content, it becomes a conflict. That's one thing we have to always be very careful of. And like I said, I don't know who came up with this advisory draft. I don't know how many people were brought to the table, but I know when the Fresh Start resolution was accepted, it was accepted because it brought points of interest that would actually work. When we talk about a debt, this debt was not created by this district. This debt was created by people who came down from the state. The people that they had in control that were making various decisions that were not in the best interest of this district. And it was systematically done with certain decisions. So as we move forward, you know, just like we said when the governor came, everybody was on board. Everybody rallied. And then after the governor left, decisions were made, proposals was drafted, and ain't nobody had no input from the community as to what would be acceptable and what would not be acceptable. And you know, I'm going to continue to go around my elbow to get to my thumb to get what we need done, but it's going to take a collective group of individuals who have the best interest of this district at heart. And as I say, it's nothing personal with you all. You know, I remember it was a time when we had individuals that sit at this table that make decisions, that can't possibly make decisions because they don't understand the history of this district. And when you keep bringing individuals in that don't understand the history of the district, they can only be dictated to make certain decisions that they don't even understand that they make it that are not in the best interest of the district. One of the things that Mrs. Russ said, and that was that you can't trust the media, you can't trust outside sources because they continue to put out a false narrative about this district. We do have a lot of qualified individuals that want to come back to the district. And as the man, the pastor just said, you put on there about the principal, but you didn't put the superintendent job on there. You want to hire a firm and give them $20,000 to do a search that can be done on your website. Because there's a lot of individuals that are qualified with a master's degree in education as well as curriculum. And truly, that's what it would definitely take to turn this district around. You know, although the state is not a requirement that you have those things, in order to move us to the next level, you know, to prevent the takeover, because as I said, takeover is not even an option. So why ever for somebody to put that back in the paperwork, take over, closing down the schools, that's the same thing in other agreements. We had leverage because Dana said the governor can't close the schools. We know this. And eventually, Ms. Eubanks will be out of the state treasurer's office to where we can get the money to get to that relief, but it just takes time. When they come down on Friday, hopefully we will have a collective group of individuals that sit at the table that have this district's best interests at heart. Because right now, this agreement is unacceptable, that they're not going to accept this agreement. It's already been pre-noted that they're not going to accept it because it's a setup for failure. We can't have the same thing being put forth that was already instituted by others that have systematically tried to destroy us from within. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other public comments?
I forgot, I heard that, the school owns, 100-something acres, of land. Can't we utilize that somehow to help ourselves to become sustainable? We have a great building that, wine building that, can we plant some grapes? I mean, that's just food for thought.
Yeah, we could, we have that property leased right now by a farmer, but you're right,
They're not paying enough to get us out of that?
I think they pay about probably 30 grand, that's gonna be my estimate, which is in line kind of with what, leasing is for the state.
Any other public comments? Okay, item number 2, presentation by Two Sigma System.
We didn't do the minutes.
Excuse me. Okay, approval of minutes. I have a motion to approve the minutes from August 6th, 19th work session board meeting.
So moved.
Support.
The motion supported, call the roll, please.
President Mitchell,
Yes.
Vice President Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. Rush, yes. Ms. Crowder?
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan?
Yes.
Mr. Bradley, Ms. Watley sees passes.
Thank you. I have a presentation from the Two Sigma System. Next on our agenda.
I'd like to thank the Honorable Board for allowing us to make this presentation to you today. My name is James Beasley, and I'm here with my partner, Mr. James here, and we're here to offer our services to become trusted advisors to this district as it relates to growth in Mid-Harbor. As it relates to growth in Mid-Harbor. Now, the plan we propose to you is a pay for success plan. Now, how this differentiates from everything else you have is that we use science and math to generate estimated outcomes for you. Can we get Bud back here for a second? Okay. And so we can also demonstrate the validity of our approach in any low performance school, implement for 100 academic days of program, and we'll do a post test utilizing, evaluation. And then at that point, we can, look at the trajectory that we're gonna move on. We're gonna do this, and if the state mandates, 0.25 standard deviation growth, from our standpoint, we're gonna double it. So we're gonna give you at least a half a standard deviation growth in order to get to that level. So when we look at what you're really gonna need, and we really studied your plan that you had, and we looked at where we could, operate within the boundaries of that plan, what the shortcomings were. The shortcomings at the end of 4-year plan. Your third grade who has various grades. So now once you get past year 3 and move into year 4, now we really start to see the impact of two sigma goal achievement. Just a quarter of that success, a half a standard, half a standard deviation. Year 4, which is your testing period there, you can see we moved ahead of Kelowna and River Valley. Take the same thing on out to year 5, St. Joseph, and you do this resident plan, and we know it's going to work because we tested it elsewhere. Now let's put this in perspective, just to give us a contrast to what you've already suggested to the state. This is pretty much how the state is going to be looking at this. At the end of year 1 on the high school level, you're going to see that we're starting to go there. We're not making, at the end of year 1, 10% proficiency, so it's better than we were before. And at the end of year 4, we're at 30%.
Reports is prepared for Board of Education each month. Facts analysis this evening, it's recommended that the payments for all the district's funds be approved for the months of May and June of 2019. Policy reference is 6470, payment of claims. And the recommended action is that the Benton Harbor Schools Board of Education vote to approve the May 2019 payments for the amounts listed, and likewise to approve the June 2019 payments for the following funds.
Thank you. Motion for staff report number 3.
So moved.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any discussion? Call the roll.
President Mitchell,
Yes.
Vice President Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. Rush, yes. Ms. Crowder,
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley, Ms. Whiteley, yes. Motion.
Good evening, everybody. The subject is employment of staff, submitting for board employment, school code, and general laws of the state of Michigan. I will be reading the new staff, last name, Kelly Baptist, social success, recommended action that the Benton Harbor Area School Board of Education votes to approve the employment of the aforementioned staff.
Thank you. A motion for staff report number 4.
Second,
Moved by
Ms. Whiteley, seat.
Ms. Wiley Seeks and seconded by
Rush.
Ms. Rush. Any discussion?
I just have one question, President Mitchell. How many of the applicants that are teachers are new to the district? Because some have been transferred based on this sheet, but do we know how many that are new?
Thank you. Staff report number 5.
Subject is resignation.
Do you want to vote on that?
Yeah, you gotta call the
Sorry.
roll.
I thought we voted already. Call the roll.
President Mitchell,
Yes.
Vice President Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. Rush, yes. Ms. Crowder,
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley, Ms. Whiteley, seat. Motion passes.
Thank you. Staff report number 5.
Subject is the resignation and or retirement of instructional support and administrative staff. I'm submitting for board consideration to approve or accept the resignations of the instructional and support and administrative staff. According to the last name, Cindy Brinker, teacher, kindergarten; Chriselle Craig, guidance counselor; Betsy Fish, teacher, special education; Marilyn Golden, teacher, social studies; Julie Migala, teacher, kindergarten; Angelina Brodez, guidance counselor; Brian Scoggin, instructional facilitator; and Tracy Spaulding, state and federal programs director.
Staff report number 5 is a motion.
I support.
Been moved and supported. Any discussion?
Ms. Buchanan? Yeah. Mr. Bradley? Ms. Watley Seaton? Motion passes.
Thank you. Anything else, Ms. Gill? Anything else?
Yes, I wanted to make a short presentation with your permission about the hiring practices.
Yes, go ahead, please.
That is in my heart because in the last 2 weeks, and the team of people who have been a part of this process, would you please stand up?
Airplane East for the total amount of $385,095.07 through Johnson Controls.
It's been moved and,
Second.
any second? It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Mr. Taylor?
Yes, sir. So I have a discussion item, Mr. Boone. So you mentioned that on the resolution that the Michigan State Police and some sinking fund dollars will be used for this project. How much of the Michigan State Police dollars will be used versus sinking fund?
So the only thing that will be coming out of that project the only thing that will be coming out of the sinking fund is gonna be the camera system in the amount of $160,977.75. The rest will be through the industry.
Second question, Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
to Mr. Boone. So has it been proven that we actually need the updated fire alarm system since based on National Fire Association? In our previous assessment, it shows that we're grandfathered in because the new fire system will give us voice. And so is it factual that we actually need it because even Fairplain Junior High School has the same recommendation written into the assessment, and we have students enrolled in those schools since the assessment of 2017.
Yeah, the difference that, the steps that we followed this time, we used a fire alarm engineering company, not an architect engineering firm. And I believe that Ms. Robinson sent an email to the board in regards to their findings, and that's how we came up with the recommendation to replace the fire alarm system.
I apologize. Got water. I'm sorry. So we need to spend that money, so it's not grandfathered in, you're saying, and that we need to upgrade the system. Because if that's the case, then we would need to upgrade the system at Fairplain Junior High.
That is correct.
And so what's the ET or estimated time frame that for upgrade of Fairplain Junior High as well? Because I don't know that to be factual based on that firm, because I know that if you're in a school, that school does not need to be modified if it's grandfathered by the law.
That project is currently getting, it's currently underway as we speak. We have fire alarms, security cameras, and key fobs going to ACA as well as Hall.
Thank you.
Any other questions, discussion? Call it over.
President Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Vice President Taylor?
Yes.
Ms. Ross, yes. Ms. Crowley?
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan?
Yes.
Mr. Bradley? Ms. Watley Seaton? Yes.
Okay. Staff report number 8.
This is in regards to upgrading the kitchen equipment at Benton Harbor High School. And it's to upgrade coolers and freezers, makeup air and exhaust fans from the kitchen cooking area. The total amount of the project is $453,880.17. They will upgrade the coolers, freezers, makeup air and exhaust fans at the high school. The project can go through the source law agreement to avoid traditional RFP process, and it's in line with policy 6320 and for purchasing. And it's recommended that the Benton Harbor Area School Board of Education votes to approve the change order 1 in the amount of $453,880.17 for Tyco Simplex Renault to upgrade the coolers, freezers, and makeup air exhaust fans at the high school.
And, Mr. Boone, where were these funds identified?
These funds are identified in the food service spend down that we have to do, which has $481,000 in it currently. So this will get us close to finishing off that spend down plan.
Thank you. May I have a motion for staff report number 8?
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion?
I have one question to
Mr. Taylor?
Mr. Boone, and that's, where's the makeup air exhaust fans?
The makeup air exhaust fans are on the roof directly above the kitchen.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And one note for the audience is that we did close the kitchen at Martin Luther King. All food service operations will be operated out of the high school. Kids and staff through the high school kitchen. So these upgrades have been long in the making. We had the funds to do it, and we thought this would be a good time to take advantage of that. I have a motion for staff report number 8.
It was moved and seconded already.
Already, any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
President Mitchell,
Yes.
Vice President Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. Rush, yes, Ms. Crowden,
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yeah.
Mr. Bradley, Ms. Watley Seeds. Yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. Under other, committee policy 0155. You have in front of you, this was supplied to Taylor as, and something that we needed to look at in the committee structure. He indicated, we indicated at the time that there was no fast track on voting for this, going from the Neola policies. And what you have in front of you are outlined by staff and superintendent on some questions they had about the policy. If the board doesn't have a problem with it, I'd like to send this back one time to the committee structure for each committee to review in their particular committee on items that relate to them. And then come back in September with a finished policy to submit, if that's agreeable. Everyone would have input.
You want discussion
Yes.
now or you want
Yes, we
motion?
have, well, we're going to vote on this, and,
I thought we're deferring vote till we,
pardon me?
I thought you just said we're going to defer vote till each of the committees.
That would be my recommendation.
Yeah.
If it's not the board's, then we'll proceed.
Right.
Yeah, so board, what you normally do when you look at policy for those who are new, you do a first and second pass, right? So you guys were given the policy. I see that there are line items on here that are added, for example, where they shall serve a term for the rest of the calendar year. That one could be taken back out because in your current policy, it talks about a one-year term. And to understand what these policies do, the policy that I brought in place was vetted already through Neola, right? So I see on here too where some say this is administrative. Well, no, it's not. It's, you have to understand Neola has their own attorneys. Their attorneys vet the policy, right? And so that's why districts have chosen Neola. As a matter of fact, MASB is a partner with Neola because it's easier, right? Once it's already vetted. So I think to Dr. Rush's point, we look at the first pass, come back to the second pass, right? And then approve. We don't do it right away.
Okay, so this is not a action item for this evening?
No,
Okay.
it's just a review.
Okay,
So I have a
Yes.
discussion item.
yes, Ms. Rush.
So I think it's great that, Mr. Taylor is, holding us accountable to these policies. I think, anybody that's looked at the Neola policies knows, how many are there? 500, 2,000, something like that. So I don't think any of us know off the top of our head, policy, especially like the number of the policy, or the contents. So I would like to take what Mr. Taylor has done and take it one step further, which is that I think that when we put agenda items on the budget, when we put items on the agenda, one of us should look up and find out what policies apply, and we should circulate those policies to each of the board members ahead of the meeting. So all of us, as Mr. Taylor has pointed out, are on top of this. And so I would say, much as I hate to volunteer for more work, if people want the board secretary, this to be part of the board secretary's work, I would be happy to do that. Or if Mr. Taylor, as vice president, wants to volunteer to continue to do this, I think it's fine. But I think it would be good. I agree with, we should be in line with policies, but I don't think that any of us have complete command of all the Neola policies. So I think we need to work on a process, which we don't have to decide tonight. We could talk about it at a working session in September, but I think we kind of need to tighten this up.
Well, I agree, and I think we made it a firm commitment last year, if I'm not mistaken, Vice President Taylor, that when staff brings action items to the board, that a policy is attached that explains where they're coming from on each item. So would staff please continue to do that, just like Mr. Boone did, did this evening? Because I'm not going to try to learn 500 policies, So that's for staff to do. But certainly if you're willing to take on that responsibility, I don't have any objection with that. Make sure that we're on target.
I think the board should just establish a policy committee, because, if you look at the definition of the board, we're policymakers. So I think we have everything besides a policy committee. We have facilities operations, HR, we have curriculum, instruction, we have finance, but this is the crust of the work, because without this, we'll go haywire.
Right, and we formally did have a policy committee in operation, so that's something that we can institute.
And then we can go over this, right, in the committee, first and second readings, bring it back to the board.
And if anyone would like to volunteer for that committee, please contact me. And we'll go from there.
I'll volunteer.
Very good, Mr. Taylor, the chairman of that committee. There's 2 more members.
I'm tapped out.
Okay, we'll find two other board members for that. Superintendent announcements and comments.
Thank you, board. I have just a couple of comments. Yesterday, my team and I, we spent time doing building walkthroughs, looking at the buildings for cosmetic concerns or issues. I think this is kind of a first of many that we'll do throughout the year. Getting our buildings ready for our students and for our parents as they come in on the first day. One of our goals this year is to have a welcoming environment that is neat and appropriate for our families in the community. Another thing I did today, I spent some time with our building administrators for the very first time for the start of the school year, going over evaluation goals and then also the evaluation rubrics. This is kind of getting them set up for developing their personal goals for the year, and then also reminding them of what we will be looking for as we do our evaluations, what data documents they'll collect, and also putting that information into Google Docs so that it's easily accessible. The other thing I want to just give you a couple of reminders of, we have our job fair coming up this Friday. It will be held at the high school. And then we have our student fair, and I believe that the job fair is from 9 o'clock to 4 p.m. Friday. The student fair is at Hall Park on Saturday. We are collaborating with the Minister Alliance, other different partners throughout the community. They'll be there as well, giving out food, some backpack giveaways, and that will be from 11 o'clock to 3 o'clock.
Thank you very much. Board member announcements and or comments.
I have one.
Ms. Lynch.
So, it is not my usual thing to give a long speech, but I'm going to give a speech. And, I'm timing myself at 10 minutes. If I go over, I'll stop. So, I've been serving on the board since January. In some ways, am a newcomer, although I've lived in Sodas. I've lived in the district for 12 years and paid taxes for 12 years. What some people here know me very well, and some people we've never met. I, in my previous life, was not only a physician, but was a administrator and also a business consultant. And I have done turnarounds of many organizations as a business consultant. The largest organization I turned around was $100 million, an organization with 2,000 people. An organization that had a 30-day notice from the feds and from the state to close. And at the end of 1 year, we not only relieved all of our citations, but we became a superior organization that was cited by the federal government and the state as a model organization. Why do I tell you that? I know how to do turnarounds. And I can tell you that what makes a turnaround is not magic, it is hard work. There is no formula, and I don't want to take to task the 2 Sigma people, but there is no formula to do this, it is just hard work. And I thank the pastors that are still here. I'm sorry, some of the pastors have already left. But I agree, we have to work together, and we have to increase accountability and transparency of the board, and we have to have more community input on a regular basis, much more than just the public comment at the beginning of the meeting. One of the things that is not discussed and was not discussed in the previous presentation was that education, or the school system, let's just say the school system, is just one piece of the big problem. We also have to talk about poverty, the impact of trauma on our children, the impact of trauma on our families. The problem is that when families are under extreme stress, as the families are here in Benton Harbor, they cannot pay enough attention to their children. I am not one in favor of yelling at the parents, which I sometimes hear from both the board and the community. We have to support our families, we have to support the children, especially parents of young children. We also have to look at the role of incarceration. In the past month, I have done a survey of all 50 states. And across the board, what is related is that in states with low economy, high unemployment, and high incarceration, there's educational problems. This is not just Benton Harbor, this is the whole United States of America. Michigan is 37th or 47th. The whole state, I mean, we're told that Michigan wants to be 10 and 10, and the top 10 within 10 years. That 10 years is almost gone, and Michigan is sinking. This is not just a Benton Harbor problem. This is a much bigger problem. And we have to, I agree with, I think Reverend McAfee just left, but we have to get business leaders and everyone else involved, because the schools cannot fix this by themselves. Michigan has a much higher than average juvenile incarceration rate. That needs to be addressed and looked at. And the city council person who said that we have a school to prison pipeline, I think that we have to look into what she was saying. We need to have improved business operations in Benton Harbor schools. We need to have, and I'm not gonna go into the wherefores, but our previous CEO superintendent took several actions that undermined the business operations of this district. Some of the board members did not want us to straighten that out. We have to straighten out, we have to have transparent business operations. Not only the human resources program is on its way, but we have to have transparent, open business operations in the school. So people know what the budget is, they know how many teachers, how many openings, how many books, how many refrigerators, whatever we're buying. And that needs to happen soon. We also need to look at the debt. Several, the Pieces for Life people talked about that. We need to seriously look at this, and I appreciate the comments made by the public. But one of the terms that did not come up tonight that has to be raised again is the forensic audit. We need to look at where that money went and how did we get in this debt. Now, this is complicated. I'm no longer part of the state negotiation team, but when I was on the state negotiation team, we're depending on these people and their lifeline. And so we don't want to yell at them while we're depending on them. But as soon as possible, we need to really look into the records of where this money went. And people need to be held accountable. Inside or outside Benton Harbor, inside, outside the state. If you listen to all the other communities that came from Detroit, Flint, Inkster, Saginaw, etc., they had the same story, and some of the same state people were in their districts. So if we're serious, those are the things that we need to get to. We need to both have strong business operations, we need to have solid academics, we need to have good leadership, and we need to figure out what happened. The last thing I want to talk about is community division. One of the strange things to me, since I took this position, I started running last summer, almost a year ago, is all the gossip and all the naysaying in this community. And since this was already on, everybody heard, everybody at the public comment, I usually don't talk about this, but I want to say this. I have great respect for a lot of people in this room and people that were in this room before that have now left. But I have also heard all kinds of rumors about everybody that used to be on the board, everybody that's still on the board, people who worked here, people in the community, their relatives, their cousins, their neighbors. If this community continues to do this, and I try to figure out why is this happening? I never saw this happening I've worked my entire career in underserved communities. I've never seen this happen before. And I think that is because it's such a small town, or it's so isolated from other communities. If this divisiveness, which is from within, this is what invited the governor into our house to start with. If people cannot put the past aside and get sober, get honest, we had a lot of underhanded stuff that went on in the previous year with regard to student testing, all kinds of stuff. Money, accounting, etc. We have to bring this all to light. We have to look at what are we held accountable for? What are the students held accountable for? What are our business operations? And that is what is going to make or break us. And we have to pull together. If people continue to gossip and bring up old, I can't think of the word, but anyway, where you're mad at somebody for something that happened before, we are going to close. We have to put this aside. And with that, I close.
I would like to say, good afternoon to everyone that came out, and I got a phone call from a young lady, I think she graduated in the 70s. So I would like to say to whoever hired committee, when our young people come back to the city, please interview them. Because that's where our strength gonna come from too. And just like the secretary just said, you know, people know you got to forget and forgive something. But education is very important. Now I'm gonna say this, I'm on the board, but I'm back on it. I've been in the Blossom Parade for 17 years. Last year, or the year before, I called a certain person, no name. He said, you gotta do this and do that. And then I said, you know, I don't want no argument. I'm gonna let it go. And the kids came to me, I said, we won't be in it this year. Because if you know a person, what I've been doing, I should have to go through all those changes. But anyway, and I would like the board to know, the president, the vice, and everybody else, thank God for my son. He has done well. He had another operation. He's not where he should be, but he's not where he was. So continue to pray. And we as a community need to come together. I don't hold no grudge against nobody. But you got people out there that know stuff and they want to say it. Let them come up to the board and say it. Because Lou Buchanan don't have no hidden agenda. My phone number is listed. If you got something you want to present, let me know. Because we got to learn to get along with each other. With that being said, I want to say good night and everybody be happy. That's Lord one number.
Mr. Crowder, any comments?
I'm hesitant. I'm hesitant to speak because we have so many negative comments tonight. I'm sitting up here, the public doesn't know how hard this board works. I've only been on the board since May. And I've had so many meetings I've gone to Lansing. We spent a lot of time together. We worked hard. A lot of things that were said today, but things you don't know about, of course, that's why you're saying them negatively. But just trust us. Just think about what if you were on the board? What would you be doing? Would you go to the meetings? We're here almost every Tuesday. And now we got a meeting on Friday, which just happened today.
And we're not getting paid.
I'm just getting ready to say, this is volunteer. I like working in a district. I taught here over 35 years, but I can't work in a district because I'm on the board. So I can't even do a part-time job here. So just trust us. We're doing the best we can. You won't know everything because we don't know everything. We're finding things out daily. So just trust that we are working hard. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Sims?
All right, how do I follow that up? Well, you know, I sat here listening, you know, to a lot of the comments. You know, I'm new to this too. I sit here and I don't say a lot. I'm learning. And I have to have time to learn. That being said, we do attend a lot of meetings because we care. We are here because we care. What was in the past was the past. People need to get over the past. And it is hard to do that at times. You say to the community, trust us. They can't trust us because they don't trust themselves. That's the way I look at it. So that takes time. And so with that, I am here, I am present, I will do what I can. I will not tolerate disrespect. I give respect where I see that where it should be. And I praise, look at the work that has been done. Look at all the work that has been done. 30 positions, come on. There's a lot been going on here. So for people to come in and say, and not be here and not know what has been going on, it hurts. It does hurt, but we'll get over that. And we will get through that, and we will reign as a great board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you. I want to thank those who came tonight to voice their opinions and those who stayed. I do think there was some truth to power in their statements because some of these things that they stated was factual, right? At the beginning, we did talk about how do we recruit and obtain a highly qualified superintendent. When we talk about trust, when you look on a website and it's not posted, but the board is thinking about hiring a person that's in their seat, then that doesn't seem trustful. So I think the board, we have to be diligent, we have to follow policy, because if we follow policy, we would have never gotten to that place of even thinking about that, right? And so I know that we're new. I was new at one time too. I would say though, before we react, we always open that book up, or we can go online, you can go right there to BHAS.org and pull up the policy, right? If you have any reservations about what it is that you want to do, go through policy. Because you have to understand that boards that don't follow policy, then the trust factor from community stakeholders will be vigilant. And so I would say that that's one of our musts, right? We got to make sure that we are policymakers, even though we're new, we worked hard, right? Because when we took our oaths, it says that we have to show up for meetings, right? We'll do it, whatever it takes. And as I stated to the board last week, look, it's not going to be an easy job, right? We're going to have things pop up. Like we can't turn down the governor's and MDE and Treasury's invite to meet because they're going to give us their rendition of a plan or their outcome as to what they are going to expect. And to the community, when they talk about a plan, boards of education are not required to create strategic plans. We should have never been asked by any entity except MDE to create a plan. So I think the taxpayers don't understand that, right? They're saying your plan wasn't good enough. Well, they don't understand that boards don't create plans. That's administration. That's not our job, right? We accept plans based on their recommendations. That's not a Board of Education's job. We should have never been asked that from the state government. And now that we have Dr. Rice, the state superintendent, we can talk about action items and how we work it out, because what the community has to understand that we're still a bottom 5% district, right? And there's still what's called the priority districts. And so this would be considered one of those districts, right? And so you would still have to go under some sort of partnership with MDE first and foremost. That's where the true partnership starts. And then you would have to inject Treasury because there's a state obligation for deficit elimination. So that's what the taxpayers need to understand, that the Board of Education is not supposed to be writing plans and giving them to government agencies at a moment's notice. You have to understand, when they came and said, we want a plan, right? They asked for a plan within 2 weeks. That's a crazy obligation. It's crazy for people to think that we're gonna have a highly qualified plan. So I want to ask the state superintendent from MDE for help. And I think this board, we had not reached out yet to say, MDE, we need your help, because ultimately, Superintendent Rice, we're going to have to take his help and his recommendations, because there are two authorities in this, and that's Treasury and MDE. Both of them have authority to dissolve or close a district, right? The governor, her authority is this. She can say, you know what? State Treasurer Eubanks, go in, audit, check out to make sure that they have enough finances, and then they'll bring the hammer down, right? So that's what the governor can do. So even though we hear from the Attorney General, as far as the governor didn't have a dog in this fight, we do know that the governor can ask Treasury to do something, right? And so we have to always be respectful and mindful. But I would say to this board and to the community, right? These partnerships are going to depend on basically two people, MDE and Treasury. And so when we get to the table Friday, make sure you ask for assistance. Make sure whatever recommendations there are from State Superintendent Rice that we listen to, because he was a superintendent in Kalamazoo. Kalamazoo and Saginaw sued the state of Michigan, right? So you have to understand, this guy understands education, loves education. He's committed to helping the district, but we need to make sure that we help ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. No other comments, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn tonight's meeting.
So,
Yeah.